Awaken your spirit chosen ones. Stars don't ask permission to shine. They burn regardless. That's the truth most people can't handle, especially when the light isn't theirs. And here's the wild part. Studies show the human eye is naturally drawn to brightness, even in a crowded room. Translation: you can't hide a star even if your enemies put up blackout curtains. The moment you rise, eyes turn. And when those eyes turn, so does the balance of power. What makes this moment so delicious is that while you're out here glowing effortlessly, your opposition is scrambling like Wi-Fi during a storm, weak, unstable, and embarrassingly unreliable. The punchline? Someone has already stepped in to checkmate them on your behalf, making sure they eat the very arrogance they once served hot. This isn't just about light versus darkness. It's about what happens when a star refuses to dim, and the universe appoints a defender to put every opponent exactly where they belong, in their place. Number 1. They thought you were alone, but the universe assigned you backup. They thought you were alone, stripped of support, standing without a voice behind you. That's the bet they made, and it's the very gamble that will cost them everything. People who plot in the dark rely on one assumption: that no one will rise for you, that no one will dare to challenge their version of events. They believed silence around you was safety for them. But what they never considered is that sometimes defense doesn't come because you screamed for it. It comes because the universe doesn't allow certain injustices to stand unchecked. Your enemies built their confidence on the illusion of your isolation. They thought no one was paying attention, no one cared enough to intervene, and no one powerful enough would notice. And for a while they were comfortable in that delusion. They took advantage, they whispered, they mocked, they underestimated. But the flaw in their strategy was that your life isn't ordinary. Your path has always carried weight, and weight demands witnesses. So when the time came, help didn't just appear, it was assigned. The force standing up for you isn't just about protection, it's about correction. It's about balancing the scale they tilted too far in their favor. And the irony? The very same confidence they built by believing you were on your own is what made their downfall so swift. They never saw the reinforcements coming. They never thought anyone would stick up for you with such authority, clarity, and conviction that their arrogance would shatter in real time. What's happening now is bigger than defense. It's exposure. Their lies collapse faster when someone else is dismantling them piece by piece. Their pride deflates quicker when it's not just you they're fighting, but an undeniable force that makes them look small. And the beauty in it all? You didn't beg for this shield. You didn't orchestrate it. It found you because truth attracts defenders, and your star was never meant to stand unattended. They thought you were alone, they were wrong, and that miscalculation is what will bury them. Number 2. Their confidence was built on your silence. Now it's being dismantled. Their entire confidence was built on your silence. As long as you didn't clap back, as long as you didn't defend yourself, they could parade around acting untouchable. They fed off the idea that you wouldn't expose them, that you'd keep your head down while they controlled the narrative. Silence was their comfort zone. It gave them the stage, it gave them fake authority, and it gave them the illusion of winning. But the moment someone else stepped in to call them out, their entire tower of arrogance began to collapse. It's one thing for them to fight against you. They prepared for that. They rehearsed for that. But they weren't ready for the voice that wasn't yours, yet spoke for you. That was their blind spot. They underestimated how quickly their fake power would vanish once someone dismantled their lies with undeniable truth. Their pride wasn't built on strength, it was built on you not speaking. Now, with another person stepping into the spotlight, their foundation is cracking. The shift is brutal for them because exposure hits harder when it doesn't come from the target. When someone else points out their hypocrisy, it cuts deeper, it embarrasses them, and it shows everyone watching that their control was never real. They thrived in shadows, but now every arrogant smirk, every rumor they spread, every jab they threw is being dragged into the open by a defender who doesn't flinch. That kind of pressure makes their fake power fold instantly. And here's the part that stings them most. You didn't even have to lift a finger. They wanted your silence to mean weakness, but it turned out to mean strength. because someone else decided to fight for you without needing your permission. Their undoing isn't just about being confronted, it's about being confronted in ways they never prepared for. They built their kingdom on the assumption you'd never speak. Now they're being drowned out by a voice louder than theirs, a voice that refuses to let their arrogance stand another second. Their confidence lived in your silence. Now it's dying in someone else's truth. Number 3, your star didn't rise by accident, it rose by alignment. Your star didn't rise by accident, it rose by alignment. People will try to label it luck, as if everything that's happening for you just fell out of the sky. But luck doesn't explain the timing of doors opening right when they should, or the way setbacks kept redirecting you toward something bigger. Alignment does. Every detour, every delay, every disappointment was positioning you so that when your light finally broke through, it couldn't be ignored. Your enemies don't want to accept that. They'd rather believe you stumbled into success or that you somehow cheated the system. But the truth is, your rise is the result of forces they can't calculate. They thought their sabotage would block you, but every attempt only served to sharpen you. They thought rejection would bury you, but it only made you resilient. And now that your shine is undeniable, they're forced to witness the very thing they never wanted to admit. Your moment was written long before they tried to interfere. The beauty of alignment is that it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check in with your enemies. It doesn't seek approval, and it doesn't wait for their comfort. When the time is right, everything clicks into place. Your skills, your persistence, your spirit, all of it syncs perfectly with opportunity. And what looked like coincidence is really inevitability. That's why no amount of gossip, envy, or plotting could derail you. Alignment is bigger than them. Now, as your star rises higher, the gap between you and them becomes impossible to ignore. They stayed stuck in cycles of bitterness while you kept moving forward, step by step, even when it didn't look glamorous. That consistency paid off, and now alignment has placed you where their words can't reach and their schemes can't touch. So no, it wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was every pain, every lesson, every closed door lining up to make this exact moment undeniable. Your rise was never random. It was orchestrated, and that's what makes it unstoppable. Number 4, they're learning that not everyone buys their illusions. They're learning the hard way that illusions only work as long as everyone agrees to play along. For a while, their lies looked convincing because no one challenged them. They spoke with confidence, twisted facts, spread rumors, and wore masks so carefully that it almost seemed believable. But illusions are fragile things. One touch of truth, and the entire show falls apart. And now, with someone else stepping in to speak what they worked so hard to hide, their carefully built image is crumbling in front of everyone. The shock for them isn't just that the truth came out. It's that people are finally seeing through the performance. Manipulators thrive on silence and spectators who don't question. But once the illusion is broken, once the curtain is pulled back, the audience can't unsee what's been revealed. That's the kind of exposure that doesn't just wound pride, it dismantles the very foundation they stood on. Their smear campaigns depended on the crowd swallowing every word without thinking. But all it takes is one strong voice cutting through the noise, one undeniable fact placed in the open, and suddenly the spell is broken. People start questioning, connections click together, and the manipulator who looked powerful yesterday now looks desperate today. That shift is brutal because once people recognize the game is over. The raw, unfiltered truth doesn't need polish or exaggeration. It carries its own weight, and in the presence of truth, their lies shrivel. The manipulation that once felt solid now feels pathetic. They wanted control, but what they have now is exposure, and exposure strips away the last refuge they had. They're learning that not everyone will buy the illusion, no matter how well it's sold. And once people stop buying, the illusion has no power left to stand on. Number 5, you didn't beg for defense. It came to you because you were worthy. You didn't have to beg for defense because your worth spoke louder than any plea ever could. Unlike those who build fake support systems, manipulate people into siding with them, or cry for sympathy to mask their guilt. You moved differently. You stood in your truth, even when it cost you comfort. And that truth carried weight. The kind of weight that makes others, without being asked, step forward to shield you, because they recognize something rare: authenticity. Your enemies can't understand this, because everything they have is manufactured. They rally people by spinning lies, by feeding insecurities, by preying on the weak-minded. Their armies are stitched together with fear and deceit. Yours, on the other hand, wasn't built by design. It found you naturally, drawn to the integrity that can't be faked. That's the difference. They chase followers. Support chases you. This is what unsettles them most. You didn't cry out for help, yet you received it. You didn't plead for someone to see your side, yet someone powerful did. You didn't try to manipulate the narrative, yet truth itself stepped in as your shield. That's not coincidence, it's consequence. When you live authentically, when you refuse to bend your character for approval, you create an undeniable energy that makes others want to stand in your corner. The irony is almost painful for them. They scream the loudest, they demand attention, they orchestrate drama, and still, no one genuinely comes to defend them without being bribed, guilt-tripped, or deceived. But you? Your quiet strength, your refusal to bow, became its own protection. You earned defense not by begging, but by being worthy of it. And that's what they'll never grasp. Defense doesn't always belong to the loudest voice, it belongs to the truest one. You didn't chase it, it found you. Because real protection doesn't respond to noise, it responds to authenticity. Number 6. Watching you shine exposes the weakness they worked so hard to hide. Watching you shine forces them into the kind of exposure they've been running from their whole lives. For so long, they've hidden their insecurities behind arrogance, fake confidence, and carefully crafted illusions. They built walls, masks, and distractions so no one could see how fragile they really are. But your rise is different. It's not just about you glowing, it's about what your glow reveals. Your success, your strength, your presence turns into a spotlight that strips away every layer they tried to cover themselves with. They worked tirelessly to make sure people never saw their weaknesses. They projected power, acted untouchable, and pushed narratives that made them look bigger than they really were. But the higher you climb, the more obvious it becomes that their entire persona was stitched together by fear. Every achievement of yours exposes what they lack. Every win of yours highlights what they couldn't accomplish. And the harder they try to pretend otherwise, the more your light makes their cracks visible. That's why your shine agitates them so much. It's not just jealousy, it's exposure. You represent everything they tried to bury about themselves: their failure to grow, their refusal to evolve, their inability to be real. Your glow unmasks their shadows, and the truth is they can't compete with authenticity. They can't fake what you've become, because becoming it required a kind of courage they never had. Now their weakness isn't hidden in whispers or shadows anymore, it's out in the open. People are noticing the contrast. They see the difference between real light and forced imitation. And no matter how hard your enemies try to cover themselves again, the spotlight follows them, revealing more than they're comfortable with. Your shine isn't just your victory, it's their unraveling. Because every time you step higher, every time your light gets brighter, it reminds them of the truth they spent years trying to escape. Their strength was never real. It was just a mask, and now the mask has melted under the heat of your glow. Number 7. They can't intimidate what's already backed by authority they can't touch. They can't intimidate you because what protects you is bigger than anything they could ever threaten with. They tried their usual tactics: pressure, gossip, intimidation, subtle attacks. But none of it sticks, because you're not standing on your own. There's an authority around you that they can't see, can't buy, can't manipulate, and definitely can't defeat. That's what unsettles them the most. It's not just you they're facing. It's the invisible hand that keeps putting them in check every time they think they've won. Their entire strategy relies on fear. They're used to people shrinking when confronted, bending under pressure, or second-guessing themselves when opposition shows up. But when they tried it with you, nothing moved. You didn't shrink, you didn't stutter, you didn't collapse, and that shook them to the core. because deep down they can sense it. This isn't just human resilience. There's something behind you, something covering you, something that makes their threats bounce back empty. They can't figure it out, so it terrifies them. How do you threaten someone who doesn't respond? How do you control someone who can't be bribed, scared, or broken? How do you win against someone who walks with a backing you can't even see, let alone touch? That's why their intimidation is failing. Their usual weapons have no power here, and it leaves them powerless in ways they've never experienced before. The truth is, what shields you isn't noise or performance, it's authority. Real authority doesn't shout, it doesn't posture, it doesn't need to prove itself, it just exists, undeniable and immovable. That's what covers you. And every time they try to push harder, that same authority steps in, redirecting the outcome and reminding them of their limits. What they fear most isn't actually you, it's what surrounds you. It's the invisible hand correcting every plot, silencing every scheme, and checking every move they thought they had in their favor. They can't fight it, they can't outsmart it, and they can't touch it. And that's why their intimidation is nothing but wasted effort. Number 8. Their loss of control is the justice they never saw coming. Their loss of control is the very justice they never anticipated. For so long, they were convinced they had your story in their hands, twisting it, editing it, and selling it to anyone who would listen. They believed their grip was ironclad, that no matter what you did, their version of events would always overshadow yours. That false sense of power made them reckless. But now, the very control they bragged about is slipping, and the unraveling of it all is louder than any verdict a judge could ever deliver. Control is addictive. It gives manipulators a high. They feed on being the puppet master, deciding who sees you as weak, who doubts you, who turns against you. And because they got away with it for so long, they thought the game would never end. But control built on lies has an expiration date. It always rots from the inside. The moment truth began leaking through the cracks, their so-called dominance started collapsing, and there's no stopping the fall. The irony is that they didn't lose control because you fought harder. They lost control because the truth has its own way of rising. Lies can be rehearsed, but truth doesn't need practice, it only needs time. And when it shows up, it wipes away every illusion they worked to create. Their biggest punishment is watching the narrative flip in real time, leaving them powerless to rewrite it again. What they're experiencing now isn't just defeat, it's exposure. Everyone can see the unraveling. Everyone can feel the shift, and no matter how much they scramble to regain their grip, it's clear their power was never real to begin with. The collapse is the judgment, the silence of their influence, the crumbling of their credibility, the weight of being seen for who they really are. That's the justice they never saw coming. Their downfall didn't arrive with a bang, but with the quiet stripping away of control. And in that unraveling, the truth is louder than any revenge. They never owned your story. They only borrowed it. Now it's back in your hands, and theirs are empty. Number 9. They're being forced to swallow the respect they never wanted to give you. They're being forced to swallow the very respect they swore they would never give you. For the longest time, they did everything in their power to downplay your worth. They rolled their eyes at your progress, whispered against your name, and tried to strip away every ounce of credit you deserved. In their world, you were never supposed to be recognized. But now, with others stepping in to defend you openly and unapologetically, their entire strategy is crumbling. They can't deny what's being confirmed in front of them. Your value is real, and it can't be buried. What cuts them deepest is that the recognition isn't coming from you demanding it. It's coming from others who see your light without being asked. The respect you're receiving wasn't bought, begged for, or staged. It rose naturally because authenticity always draws witnesses. And now even the people who once refused to acknowledge your greatness are left with no choice but to face it. That's where the sting lies, not just in your success, but in the undeniable fact that others validate it without hesitation. They never wanted to give you respect because doing so would mean admitting that their version of you was a lie. To them, recognizing your worth would expose their pettiness, their envy, and their failed attempts to discredit you. But reality has cornered them. They can no longer twist the narrative when people beyond their control are standing up for you, speaking truth where they only spoke poison. The defense you're receiving is a mirror they can't escape. It shows them what they refuse to see and forces them to swallow what they swore they never would. That your presence carries weight, your character commands honor, and your authenticity holds power. Whether they like it or not, the respect they withheld is now pressing down on them like judgment. The punishment isn't that you demanded their recognition, it's that they're being dragged into giving it without wanting to. And nothing tastes more bitter than being forced to honor what you tried your hardest to erase. Number 10. You didn't just survive their attacks. You became the reason they'll think twice before targeting anyone again. You didn't just survive their attacks. You turned their entire strategy into a cautionary tale. They came at you thinking it would be business as usual. Tear someone down, get away with it, move on to the next target. That's the pattern they were comfortable with. But you disrupted that cycle. Not only did you endure what they threw at you, you came out stronger, louder, and backed by undeniable proof that they couldn't break you. And now, instead of celebrating a win, they're sitting in the middle of their own public downfall. Your situation has become a warning sign. Every move they made, every attack they launched, is now under the spotlight for others to see. The same tactics they once used in silence are now being studied as examples of what not to do. Their arrogance convinced them they'd silence you, but instead, they became the ones silenced, exposed and stripped of their false power. That's why your survival isn't just personal victory, it's a message broadcasted to everyone watching. They'll think twice before targeting anyone again because the memory of this loss won't leave them. It's burned into their reputation, their credibility, and their confidence. They've been made into a living example of what happens when arrogance meets truth, when manipulation collides with authenticity, and when someone chooses resilience over retreat. The fallout isn't just their defeat, it's their humiliation. And the best part? You didn't just survive quietly. You survived in a way that flipped the script, in a way that forced accountability where there used to be none. They can't rewrite this ending. They can't pretend it never happened. The evidence of their failure is now attached to them permanently, like a scar that can't be hidden. Your endurance turned into their warning. You didn't just walk through the fire, you made sure the burn stayed with them long after. Now every time they consider targeting someone else, they'll remember you, the one they couldn't break, the one who turned their attack into their lasting shame. Number 11. Your shine is proof that their darkness was never enough. Your shine is living proof that their darkness was never enough. If their plots were truly powerful, if their whispers carried real weight, if their sabotage had the force they believed it did, you wouldn't even be standing right now. You'd be forgotten, erased, or broken. But the fact that you're still here, and not just here, but glowing brighter than ever, is the undeniable evidence that their darkness never had the power they claimed it did. They worked overtime to smother your light. Every rumor, every lie, every sneaky attempt to undermine you was meant to make you fade. They didn't need to destroy you completely. They just wanted to dim you enough so that no one would notice you. But that plan failed spectacularly, because all it did was create contrast. The more they tried to surround you with shadows, the more obvious your light became. Their schemes didn't weaken you, they sharpened you. Their darkness didn't silence you, it amplified you. And here's the bitter truth for them. Darkness only has power when there's no light to challenge it. The moment you kept shining, the moment you refused to go dim, their entire strategy collapsed. What was meant to bury you turned into proof of your resilience. What was meant to shame you turned into testimony of your strength. What was meant to end you only highlighted that you can't be ended by ordinary means. Now your shine has become a statement in itself. It tells the world that their shadows were never as strong as they pretended. It shows everyone watching that no level of plotting or whispering could cancel what was destined to rise. And that's the punishment they'll never escape. Knowing that despite all their effort, all their scheming, all their obsession with seeing you fall, you didn't just survive. You glow harder, brighter, and more untouchable than before. Your shine has exposed their darkness for what it always was, weak, shallow, and temporary. They thought it would consume you, but all it did was prove you were never theirs to dim. Number 12. Someone powerful saw what they did in secret and decided to step in. Someone powerful saw what they did in secret, and that changed everything. They moved in the dark, convinced that their actions were invisible, that no one important was paying attention. They relied on silence, shadows, and hidden corners to get away with things they'd never dare do in the open. But secrets have a way of surfacing at the exact moment they think they're safe. And this time, the one who saw it wasn't just another bystander, it was an authority whose presence alone makes their stomach turn. The terrifying part for them is that judgment isn't coming from you. If it were just you, they'd know how to spin the story, how to twist the narrative, how to make you look bitter or crazy. That's their game. But they can't play those tricks with someone who carries real weight. They can't gaslight authority. They can't manipulate someone whose position stands above theirs. And that's where the panic sets in, because now accountability is no longer optional. They underestimated how sharp unseen eyes can be. They thought their whispers were safe, their sabotage was covered, and their cruelty was tucked neatly out of sight. But the truth doesn't stay hidden forever. Now that it's been noticed, it's being dealt with by someone who has no interest in protecting their ego, someone who won't look the other way, someone who can enforce consequences in ways you never had to. That's what shakes them to their core. It's not just exposure. It's exposure in front of the one audience they never wanted. And no matter how much they scramble, how much they beg, or how much they pretend, they can't erase what's already been seen. The judgment they fear isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, undeniable. The kind that strips them of the control they thought was untouchable. They thought no one was watching. They were wrong. And now the eyes that saw them are the very eyes that will make sure they answer for every secret they thought was safe in the dark. Number 13. They didn't just fail to break you. They gave you the stage. They didn't just fail to break you. They set the stage for your rise without even realizing it. Every attempt they made to silence you, every obstacle they placed in your path, every word they used to tear you down, has become part of the reason your light is so undeniable today. What they thought would erase you actually carved out a space where only you could stand. Their failure didn't just keep you intact, it elevated you. That's the irony they'll never escape. They believed their schemes were weapons, but all they did was serve as advertisements for your resilience. The more they tried to bury you, the more curious people became about why you were being buried in the first place. The more they tried to silence your voice, the louder your presence became without you having to force it. What was meant to strip you of credibility only highlighted how unshakable your truth really was. They wanted to control the narrative, but they forgot one key detail. People pay attention when someone keeps rising despite resistance. And that's exactly what happened to you. Every jab, every rumor, every trap meant to keep you down only made your glow impossible to ignore. You became the one who endured. You became the one who didn't fold. You became the one who walked through fire and came out untouchable. That story itself became your stage. Now, instead of hiding in the shadows like they intended, you're standing in the spotlight they accidentally created for you. Your glow isn't just about personal strength, it's about the undeniable evidence that you cannot be broken by ordinary means. That's what makes people watch. That's what makes your presence unforgettable. They didn't just fail in their mission to silence you. They gave you the microphone, they gave you the lights, they gave you the platform. And now, the very stage they tried to block you from is the one they unintentionally built under your feet. Their failure is your proof. Their schemes are your stage. Their loss is your spotlight. Number 14. Their defeat isn't just about you winning. It's about them finally facing themselves. Their defeat was never just about you winning. It was about forcing them into the one confrontation they've avoided their entire lives, facing themselves. They spent so much energy trying to tear you down, trying to control how others saw you, that they never stopped to deal with the hollowness inside their own lives. Attacking you was a distraction, a way to keep from looking inward. But now that their schemes have collapsed, there's nothing left to hide behind. The mirror is staring back, and it's not flattering. The real punishment isn't your shine. It's what your shine exposes about their darkness. Every ounce of bitterness they aimed at you now reflects back onto them. Every lie they told about you echoes back as a reminder of their own emptiness. What once looked like power was just a cover for fear, insecurity, and jealousy. And now, stripped of their false authority, they're left with the raw truth. There was never anything solid beneath their attacks. That's why this defeat hits different. If it were just about you winning, they could write it off as bad luck, or blame circumstances, or pretend you got help they didn't. But this loss cuts deeper, because it reveals that their entire existence has been built on avoidance, avoiding growth, avoiding responsibility, avoiding the reflection staring back at them every time they're alone. Now, without the ability to project their flaws onto you, they're forced to see themselves for who they are, and it's unbearable. Your victory is their exposure. The glow they tried to extinguish is now the light showing their cracks. And while you move forward, stronger and freer, they're stuck wrestling with the very demons they tried to bury under your name. That's the real justice, not that you rose, but that in your rising they finally have no choice but to confront the emptiness they've carried all along. Their defeat isn't your applause, it's their mirror, and the reflection is something they can no longer escape. Your journey isn't just a story of survival, it's a testament to power, authenticity, and unstoppable light. Every attack, every attempt to silence you, every scheme meant to break you has failed, and in failing, it only elevated you. Your rise didn't happen by accident. It happened because of alignment, because of the truth that cannot be hidden, and because forces beyond their understanding stepped in to protect what was always meant to shine. They thought their whispers, their lies, and their intimidation would work. They believed your silence would be weakness. But what they underestimated is that your presence alone was enough to draw defense, demand respect, and expose every hidden insecurity they worked so hard to hide. They weren't just witnessing your victory, they were being forced to confront their own emptiness, their own failures, and the futility of the control they clung to for so long. Every move they made to diminish you became the stage on which your authenticity and power became undeniable. You didn't just survive, you became a lesson, a warning, and a spotlight. Your shine proved their darkness could never touch you. Your alignment ensured that no plot or manipulation could stand in your way. Your authenticity drew protection and elevated you beyond their reach. And the best part is this. In your rise, justice didn't have to be loud. It was inevitable, unavoidable, and permanent. This isn't just about winning, it's about transformation. It's about breaking cycles, dismantling false power, and revealing truths that can't be hidden. Your story teaches that when light refuses to be dimmed, shadows crumble, lies unravel, and those who try to hold you down end up confronting the one thing they feared most, the undeniable strength and worth of your existence. Stand in that light. Own that stage. Know that your victory isn't just personal, it's universal. And let the world watch, because they're witnessing the unstoppable force that happens when authenticity meets resilience, and when those who tried to bury you discover that your shine was never theirs to touch. If this message resonated with you, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the truth that empowers and awakens. Give this video a like to show your support. Drop a comment to share your thoughts or experiences, and share it with anyone who needs to see that strength, light, and authenticity always prevail. Your engagement helps spread this energy, and trust me, the world needs more of it. Stay awakened, chosen ones.